Welcome to today's bedtime meditation story, The Lantern Keeper's Secret. In a small village nestled between rolling hills and a silver-threaded river, there stood an old lighthouse, even though the nearest sea was miles away. The villagers often wondered why it remained lit, its golden glow sweeping over treetops and rooftops, but no one questioned its keeper, Elias. He had been there longer than anyone could remember, a figure as constant as the stars. Elias was a quiet man with knowing eyes and hands weathered by time. He spoke little, but listened deeply. Some believed he was a remnant of an older time, a guardian of something unseen. Others thought he simply loved the light. But whatever the reason, the lantern at the top of the tower had never gone out. Not once, not in the harshest of storms, nor the deepest of winters. One autumn evening, a traveler named Liora arrived in the village. She had been on the road for many months, searching for something she couldn't quite name. She carried only a small satchel, a notebook filled with unfinished thoughts, and a restlessness she couldn't shake. As she wandered through the village, she noticed how the townspeople lived in a quiet harmony. Fishermen mending their nets, children playing by the river, elders sharing stories on wooden benches. Yet it was the lighthouse that drew her in, its warm glow standing against the violet dusk. With no real destination in mind, she followed its light until she reached the old stone steps leading up to the tower. Elias stood at the threshold, watching her approach with eyes that seemed to recognize her before she even spoke. "You've come far," he said, his voice gentle but certain. Liora hesitated. "I don't know why, but I felt I should be here." Elias nodded, stepping aside. "Then you are meant to be." Inside, the lighthouse was unlike anything she had expected. The air smelled of aged parchment, candle wax, and something else. Something comforting, like old memories and untold stories. Shelves lined the circular walls, filled with books, maps, and trinkets from distant places. A heavy wooden table sat in the center, covered in weathered parchment and a steaming cup of tea. Elias motioned for her to sit. As she settled into the worn wooden chair, she traced the grain of the table with her fingers before finally asking, "Why do you keep the lantern lit when there is no sea?" Elias poured her tea before answering. "Because light is not only for those lost at sea, it is for those who have wandered too far within their own minds, for those seeking a way back to themselves." Liora felt something shift within her, a knot she had carried for years loosening. "Have many travelers come here?" she asked. Elias sipped his tea thoughtfully. "Only those who are meant to." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the distant sound of the wind outside. Then Elias reached for an old leather-bound book and placed it before her. "This," he said, "is a book of stories. Some are unfinished. Some are waiting for the right person to write the next chapter." Liora hesitated before opening it. Inside, she found pages filled with names, thoughts, and dreams scribbled in the margins. Some passages read like confessions, others like prayers to the unknown. And then she found a page left blank, except for a single line. "What do you seek?" Her breath caught. For so long she had wandered without an answer. She had searched without knowing the question. And now, here it was, waiting. She picked up the waiting quill. At first her hand hovered over the page. But then, as if something deep within her had finally surfaced, she began to write. Words spilled onto the page, unfiltered and true. When she was done, she exhaled slowly, as if releasing something she had carried for too long. Elias watched her, his expression unreadable but kind. "You've taken the first step." She closed the book, her hands steady in a way they hadn't been in years. Later that night, as she lay in the small room Elias had offered her, she listened to the gentle rhythm of the wind and the steady pulse of the lighthouse's flame. She realized she no longer felt lost. She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, she felt at peace with the questions. Outside, the golden lantern continued to glow, casting light into the night. Not for ships, but for seekers, wanderers, and those who needed to remember the way home. Now, as you prepare to rest, allow your breath to settle into an easy rhythm. Inhale deeply, feeling warmth fill your chest. Exhale slowly, releasing the weight of the day. Picture the soft glow of a lantern within you, steady and calm, guiding you back to yourself. You are safe. You are exactly where you need to be. Let the night hold you gently. Let sleep welcome you home.